Hello everyone. Tonight I'm actually going to be showing you a breakdown of a Pratt Reed keyboard for a Polymoog. And this is a very common keyboard on a lot of old Moogs and some ARPs. And some ARP synthesizers use this exact same keyboard here. But what you got is the key bed, which is what you're seeing now. You've got your hammers, which makes this thing very unique. You have these hammers. You have these what I call key combs, and then there's your actual key without the key cap. That's what just your basic key looks like. Tons of springs. You got all these springs for tension, which actually go on the back side of your key, and you can set a little clip there, and they clip into one of these little holes like so. It actually goes on here like this right here. Get one of these on here for you. Just to give you an example there. And you got that hole, and the spring stretches up behind here and lifts your key up. Which also, if you just heard that clank, brings me to my next thing I want to show you. This is actually your key stops. Now, I'm not sure if my terminology is right on all this stuff because I go strictly by what I believe it to be called, because based on what I've worked on and everything. But these are your key stops here. And if you've got one of these broken, you'll know it because your key will lift all the way up. You know, just kind of float off that spring, and you'll actually feel it kind of just float. But this is also where your key bushings fit on, which I'm sure you're familiar with that term just from what you just heard right here, because this one has no key bushings. But these are key bushings right here. The little rubber pieces, which these are actually still somewhat bendable, but they're rubber, and they fit on here like so. I'll just give you an example here of how these work. This slides up on your key stop like so, and of course this one's busted all to pieces because I cut it. And then what you have is this key right here. This is looking at the underside of your key. You can see this little bent over piece right here, which actually works like a catch, and basically it slides over the key bushing like so. And this is, and basically you can kind of hear, let me get this key put on there, you kind of hear how that quietened it down quite a bit. But then that's where your spring would be, so you got this tension right there. So anyways, that's kind of how your key bushings and your key stops and your key fit onto this assembly. But the hammers are very unique, and I say that because not all Pratt Reed keyboards use hammers. These are mainly used on your more expensive synthesizers like Mini Moogs. The ARP Odyssey 2800 used these, but when they went to the 2813 models on, they used what they call a J-wire style contact, which is a lot easier to maintain, and you don't get as good a feel as you do with hammers. Of course, the hammers give you a lot better feel, in my opinion. But basically, what these things do, they set in here like so, and they actually set on the shaft, which you can see here. Here's all your key your key hammers, and they fit on that axle or shaft or hinge or whatever you'd want to call it. And basically these things have a felt bushing inside there that actually fits on that shaft, and so it's got a really smooth action, really good feel. It's almost like playing a piano. Not quite as heavy, but you get a pretty good feel. But anyways, it mounts in here like this, and basically you get this motion right here out of it when you hit a key. It's a back and forth motion rather than up and down. And basically that comes in play with these key combs, because what they do is these set right on top of your hammer right here, and basically work like a cam. If you think of a cam like for valves in an engine or whatever, they ride inside this key, and you can kind of see the grease track there where they've ridden. And basically that goes inside, so every time you hit a key down, this hammer goes back on that hinge. Let's see if I can kind of replicate it here. But yeah, it kind of goes back like that. So back and forth, which gives you a horizontal motion down here. Which also brings me to my next thing, which is the key contacts. And this actually is upside down compared to how it would look in the keyboard. It'd actually be facing the other way with these facing the ground. But you got these little rubber tabs that come out, and you can kind of see how you pull on them. Well, this is actually your contacts right here, which are springs that are all gold plated. You got your gold plated rail, but you can see how bad dirty this one is. It needs a good scrubbing. But anyways, these things make contact. Let's try and lean that sideways there for you. It actually hits that. One's for trigger and one's for CV voltages for pitch. That's basically how these rails work. Then you got your resistor networks, your capacitors, and everything for the actual circuitry. But also beware if you're working on one of these yourself and not really familiar with it, because these things are very easy to damage. And in fact, this is actually the first time I've ever damaged one. And I was removing it, and my sleeve of my shirt caught one of these contacts, and it stretched the springs out, as you can see. And this is very easy to do. And this is not my first keyboard like this, but this is the first time I've actually damaged one in this kind of way. But it's very easy to do, and these springs are very hard to get. Luckily, I got some spare springs, but in the case that these things are damaged, it's very very hard to redo these things. Then you got to realign the springs and everything to make sure it's going to trigger correctly. So a lot of work cut out for that one now. But anyways, that's just kind of an overlook of what makes up a Polymoog keyboard pretty much. As you can see, it's very complex compared to some of the other synths. And because what you get, I don't know if I explained this already or not on this video, but basically some of your cheaper synths, like for instance the Polymoog and later ARP Odyssey, the 2813 on, it didn't have a hammer. What it had was you had a key like this, but it had a shaft or lever coming straight down off the key. And what it would do is actually what you get into what's called a J-wire, where you have a contact under there. Like it's kind of the same thing as what you see there with rails or bus lines, but the contact, instead of going sideways, it goes straight down, and it actually just hits the bus bar. So it doesn't have quite the same feel as this. But anyways, what you got here is these are your springs right here for actually your tension on your key. But now what I'd like to do is just kind of show you what one actually assembled here, so you can kind of see exactly how that functions together. And what you got here, as you can see here, this is your key, this is your keycap, this is your contact board, and then this is your actual hammer. And as you can see when I hit this, let me get around here, you can see exactly how that works. And you can see your actual contact down there connected to the end, which if I had something here I could point with, let me get my pen, this may work. Yeah, let me see if I can get back on there. Yeah, right down here, if you look, right down there is your contacts. So whenever I move this, you can kind of see the clear bottom of that contact. But also if you look underneath here, if I can get a good view under it, you can kind of see that cam action that goes on with that hammer. You can see the bushing and the felt padding, and actually this wooden bar that's in front just for an extra catch to kind of relieve some of the weight and stress off the key stop. Because if you didn't have that wood, what would happen if you just hit this key and it would actually push that, it push down on that key stop and actually cause your key to be out of alignment. And so that's kind of what you see there. But anyways, I'll kind of show you what I do when I restore a synth. This is one of my things I like to do, is actually soak it in this cleaner, and that'll lay all the keys out and let them dry. But something that's very unique about the Polymoog keyboard as well, gotta excuse my messy garage here, they actually put a weight in the front of this key. So you've actually got weighted keys pretty much all the way around. So you got the hammer action, you got the weight of the front of the key. It gives it a pretty decent feel for 1976. But I know these are really good keys. I really like the feel of them. And the Mini-Moog's the same way. So if you got a Mini-Moog, you got pretty much the same concept, just 44 keys instead of 71. And a little less to work with. because these 71 keys, this is almost a backbreaker when you're restoring it. It eats up a lot of time. But anyways, I just thought I'd make a quick video here and kind of explain how the Pratt Reed keyboard works on the Polymoog. And appreciate you watching, and take care.